Before I say anything more, I think we can all agree on the basic principle that security is important. Now, we might all have different benchmarks for what we consider to be important, what our line in the sand is going to be, what areas we actually want to have security in, as opposed to ones we want to be as smooth as possible. But at a fundamental level, at a core principle level, security is important. One of the promised benefits of Wayland is improvements to security. Having apps not be able to just draw over any app they want to, pretending to be a password entry, not being able to just capture the screen or capture input and do whatever they want to do with that information. Right now, if you want to do that on Wayland, you have to give the application permission to do so. Now, we can certainly argue whether or not this was a good direction to go, whether it was fine before, whether there is a better way to handle this, and whether or not the UX cost is worth pursuing this route. But by definition, less access means more security. However, when that security starts getting in the way of usability, getting in the way of users just trying to do the things they want to do, and users don't see the value in what the system is providing, someone is going to eventually find a way to circumvent what they now deem to be a problem, what they now deem to not be worth the hassle of going through this system. Now, the way that we handle permissions on Wayland is generally going to be through the portal system. And when you want to give an application permission to do something, a little window is going to pop up and say, hey, do you want to do this thing? Do you want to capture this window? Do you want to capture this screen? Do you want to share your input? Do you want to do remote desktop capture? Things like that. It's going to pop up a window and say, give me permission to do the thing. For my personal usage, at least right now, this isn't that big of a deal. When I open up OBS, if I go and make a new screen capture, that is going to ask me to go and select what I want to capture. But screen captures are remembered. So the next time I open OBS, that is going to automatically select the screen that I was capturing. For individual windows, say I want to capture my browser window or Discord or anything else like that, that is something I will have to reselect every time I open OBS. Granted, the same thing happens over on X11 as well, so it's not really that big of a deal. You can't guarantee the window is always going to exist. Now, this might get more complicated as more portals are adopted. There is a plan to make it so USB devices and webcams and microphones, all of those are also going to go through the portal, and you make it so the flat packs are a lot more locked down. Right now, OBS isn't doing that, but if that is done, there is going to be a lot more things I need to select, and hopefully those things are going to be automatically selected and saved, so I don't have to do it every single time. But that's just me, and for some people, especially when dealing with some of the other portals, this can get really, really annoying. So the other day, I came across this. Automatically accept Wayland/portal permission dialogues. So if we go and have a look at the script, it's just a Python script, and basically what it is doing some kind of janky stuff with YDOTool. So on KDE and GNOME, which it both supports, it has slightly different names for the windows, and then it effectively uses the keyboard emulation of YDOTool and the fact these windows accept keyboard input as a way to kind of jank its way through the interface. This is a hack. It is a total hack. The fact that this works is honestly kind of surprising, but it does the job. It skips past the dialogue, and you don't have to think about it. And obviously, this wouldn't work for every kind of portal. This is specifically for the ones where they just pop up and say, do you want to give permission for this thing to happen? For things where it's like, you have to select from a big list, that's something, at least right now, you would still have to manually do. So for things like I'm doing with OBS, that would require a little bit more effort. There's probably a way you could hack it to get it to work, but it would be a lot more annoying to do. You might have to do some computer vision stuff to work out what each of the boxes say, but you could do it. But if it's just saying, permission, yes or no. Basically, it's going to do it. And for this, it's just being done for the capture input and the remote desktop. And the entire reason this exists is because of what the developer works on. I see these permission dialogues hundreds of times a day. They drive me insane. I'm a developer of Synergy and DeskFlow. The program requires input capture and remote desktop each time it starts. E.g., I make a code change, I want to test it, or I'm testing someone's PR. As it's a remote access tool, every time I restart the program on the remote machine, I have to physically switch my keyboard over to that computer to accept the dialogue. Very disruptive when debugging keyboard and mouse software. There is currently no way to permanently give permission, waiting on an upstream fix for this. My program/script is a workaround until this is fixed. I hope my workaround becomes obsolete someday. Adding to this on the GitHub, this project is a peaceful protest against the new portal permission dialogues for input capture and remote desktop, which can be found on Wayland desktops. Now, going back to the script for just a moment, looking at how this works, it is a horrendous idea, right? This is a hack and shouldn't be done unless you know exactly what's going to be run on your system, because this isn't taking in any additional context about what those dialogues might be opened from, or whether you actually want to grant that session any of these permissions. It just looks for the window called capture input, remote desktop, or on the KDE side, input capture requested or remote control requested, and then automatically accepts it. So, assuming that the only requests are coming from things that you specifically say you want to do this, it's fine. But this does create a massive gaping security hole on your system where anything that knows about this could very easily exploit it. Is it that big of a deal? Probably not. You're probably not being targeted directly by anyone who knows about this running on your system, but it should be kept in mind, especially in more corporate environments. With that being the case, I can't recommend that you go and use this. However, it does hit on a very important problem. Pop-ups like this can get very annoying to the user, and when you have too many of them, users are going to start trying to find ways around them, or just simply not read them whatsoever. This is the exact problem with UAC over on Windows, where you see this pop-up saying, hey, grant me admin permission to run malware.exe. You don't care, you see a UAC prompt, you've seen so many of them before, run, don't care, get it off my screen, I'm trying to do something, and then you have a problem because you just ran malicious software and you never bothered to check what is actually trying to run here. And I have had actual discussions with people who argue that because UAC has had vulnerabilities before, UAC has had workarounds, that because of that, it provides absolutely no security benefit whatsoever, and because most people are just ignoring it anyway, it should be just entirely done away with. And I don't agree with this perspective, but I understand where people are coming from. If people aren't using it as the blocker that it should be, it effectively doesn't exist. If you click run to every single time it appears without looking at what is trying to be run, there's no added security there for these people. The issue in the case of UAC is you see it so often that it's an incredibly annoying way of presenting the information, and users just want it to go away as quickly as possible. And in many ways, it's kind of the same thing with this as well, especially if you're a developer on something like a Synergy or a DeskFlow. If you see these prompts appear constantly, every time you reopen the application, because it doesn't save the permissions you already gave to the application, that's going to get annoying really, really, really fast. And when OBS wasn't remembering the screens that I was capturing either, that was also really annoying. And honestly, if I had a workaround for it, I probably would have been using it at the time. Bit of a side tangent, but still really important with this specific thing regarding remote desktop. The way it currently works creates a really broken system. So if you're remoting into a system, outside of being a dev specifically working on it, or you're like the sysadmin in the current building, you're probably not within keyboard access of the system. So if you set up remoting into it beforehand, you'll be fine. But if for any reason that remoting were to crash, it disconnects for some reason, you may not be in a situation where you can provide permission to actually remote into that system. Even though you've provided permission before, you might actually just be in a situation where you just cannot do that. With remote desktops being as important as they are, I do expect this specific issue to be addressed. Like, the way it currently works is clearly a UX nightmare. It's clearly doing something wrong, and this is clearly going to be dealt with. And you should be in a situation where you provide permissions once, and then from that point, you reject the permissions if you don't want it to have them. Having to do it every single time, clearly that is wrong. It should be new applications and new machines. Anything else, it should just remember that you said this thing is okay to run, let it be run. But I do worry that as more people move to Wayland, as more apps are natively working in this environment, as more applications move into Flatpaks, and as more portals get introduced, because things like a USB device portal, cameras, microphones, all of this stuff either exists right now and is not in use, or is something that is very much a work in progress. And as apps move towards that sandbox environment, you are going to see more and more of these dialogues appear as you run these applications. And in the cases where it's not being remembered, where those permissions are not being set once, and then you reject it later if you want to reject it, you are going to create a situation where you have dialogue fatigue, pop-up fatigue, and like on the Windows side, where a lot of people just ignore every single pop-up they see, you're going to start creating that situation on the Linux side as well. There's already that to some extent with running sudo, where you'll see a lot of people, especially when they're new, just put sudo in front of every command they run because, oh, it didn't run once before. Just do it with sudo, it'll be fine. That's obviously very dangerous. You might delete things you didn't intend to delete, run software you didn't intend to run, but there are people that already do that to some extent as less technical people start using Linux. And the same thing can happen with these GUI applications as well, especially if it starts reminding them of things they didn't like on Windows, of things where it was just bugging them. Hey, accept this thing, you already accepted it before, but accept this thing again. And as this gets more and more common, and more users see it, you're gonna see more people trying to completely circumvent the problem rather than trying to work on solutions that make the system more convenient working alongside upstream. Is this for sure gonna happen? No. But I am very concerned that this is the direction things are going, and very concerned that this is a problem that's not going to be discussed until it's way too late, until we're well into this problem, and you're seeing tons of these scripts to just automate away the issue. But what do you think? Do you think this is an issue whatsoever? Do you think I'm just overblowing it? Or do you think I'm actually onto something here? I'd love to know. So if you liked the video, go like the video. If you really liked the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, Scribes, Daily Barrett Pay, linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and watch out.
Like this.